Good morning. How are you? I'm MJ, by the way, and this is Alta Love TV. I'm the founder of Alta Love and the author of the Fearless Life Guide, which is a step-by-step guide to spiritual transformation. Some people call it ascension. Basically, it's just a useful guide to spiritual practice and how to apply spiritual practice in practical ways. It does involve meditation. It does involve things like conscious movement, i.e. yoga. It involves things like conscious eating and slowing down. And yet it's basically for modern people, and also for people who are waking up to the fact that maybe the world isn't exactly what you were taught it is. Maybe you have thoughts and beliefs about yourself that don't feel good to you. And in a really simple way, spiritual work, or again, that thing we call ascension, is just our ability to look within ourselves and deal with all the funky shit, basically. Deal with the stuff that doesn't feel good so that we can ultimately be moving in a direction that feels better, and then eventually end up feeling a whole lot better in ourselves, in our bodies, and in the life that we lead. And today's post is about how everything we see is a reflection of how we're feeling, what we're thinking, and ultimately deeper down what we believe about ourselves and what we believe about life. And in the Fearless Life Guide, so in my book, I talk about patterns, and ultimately we're all in patterns all the time. Life is spiraling, life is cyclical, and so when we start to pay more attention to ourselves, we will tend to notice these certain patterns, i.e. people we see repetitively. It's really simple. We could probably all agree that we have a shower every day, and we brush our teeth every day, and we have meals at certain times every day. And some of us will be more obviously rigid in our patterns, and some of us will be a little bit more fluid with our patterns, but we still all got them regardless. So when we start paying attention, we can begin to notice beyond, or rather maybe deeper inside than the actual physical action of the patterns we're in. We'll begin to notice we have emotional patterns. So, for example, women, this is a really obvious one, but women around their female cycle will have certain feeling, thinking types of patterns right before they get their periods. And that is a really obvious sort of, I would call it like a wisdom pattern, because in our culture, often we're taught to ignore our emotions. Emotions are bad. If you feel emotions, something's wrong with you. And yet the paradigm shift is actually embracing our emotions and using the awareness of any of our emotions to actually uncover deeper meaning of ourselves and also wisdom. And in a very superficial society, wisdom is valuable. And again, that is a part of the paradigm shift, is that as a collective, we're beginning to awaken, and now our inner wisdom is our value, not just what we have, not just how hard we can work for a corporation, but what we inherently know within ourselves. And every single one of us has unique ways of expressing ourselves, and definitely unique value to offer one another through our innate inner knowing. So it's not through what other people teach us, it's not through what we learned in school or what we learned on a course. It's something that resides deep within our own unique beingness. And as we learn to sort of tap that unique beingness, we can express it, share it, and then that is our service and our value in the world. So this share is really about owning our own creation and owning the fact that what we vibrate inherently is what we are seeing and creating. So if we're feeling a lot of fear and stress, we tend to see that in the world. So we'll see a limited world, we'll see a fearful world, and And so really that, again, it's kind of, you have to kind of open your mind to this a little bit, because we can always see the opposite too. We can always rationalize ourselves out of something and then see the opposite. So anything of the new paradigm, law of attraction, deeper spiritual meaning, we can negate that. We can find the opposite of that, and that will usually feel restricted in our body. Like anything inspirational will tend to feel open, anything loving and intuitive will tend to feel a little bit more liberated, anything limited, anything false, I guess more, you could say anything from like a lower frequency will feel limited and contracted. And yet, if that's what we're going to choose to believe, that's what we will see in the world. So we will find articles, or we will find proof of the limitation, you could say. Proof that, oh, the world will never change, or oh, people never change, or life is just shitty and limited and that's all there is. And the reason we observe that or attract that is because that's what we're feeling and thinking about. And it really is amazing to me that life is a reflection. And actually, in truth, this reality that we're experiencing and living in, including our own bodies and how we represent our bodies in the physical dimension, is our own creation. It really is an illusion of our own creation. And it's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just that from one moment to the next, we are creating the illusion we're choosing to see through the vibration that we carry. And as I say that, it's important that with increased practice, that we're able to stay neutral to the feelings that we're feeling. And it's super duper challenging. And I often will have moments where I just have to like pray that I'm doing it well enough to see myself to the other side of a pattern, a pattern of self-loathing, a pattern of, and that's an example. If you take an example of your own body, if you feel ugly and fat, this is an example, and one that I often will create in myself, and a fearful pattern that I've been working through most of my life, is that if you think you're horrible and ugly and fat and whatever, you will actually create a situation to reflect that back to you. So you'll create your jeans getting tighter, and you'll also create situations where you're going to see photographs of yourself reflecting that image back to you. On the flip side, if you diligently believe yourself to be beautiful and thin and sexy and all this kind of stuff, you'll then tend to create photographs and situations that reflect that image back to you. And as the continues, the acceleration is happening. So these cycles can kind of be coming up more accelerated. And also the truth of them, the truth behind their meaning, can be coming up, rising to the surface as well, because we're really heading into this quite dynamic breakthrough. So a lot of us that have been on the path or doing the work for quite a while, we're going to start to see quite a dynamic shift with regard to some of our lifelong, deeply held suffering and control patterns. And this is exciting. At the same time, perhaps over the past few months, it's been heightened and been feeling a little bit intense, almost like we're being squeezed through a tunnel. And have faith in the process, continue to commit, and remember that your thoughts are creating your reality. The vibrations that you're carrying deep, deep inside are really creating that which you're going to see. And so even if you're acting out an old illusory pattern, even if you're acting out a pattern that you've maybe felt and dealt with your whole life, eventually, if you can drop deeper and deeper and stay true to that desire which you choose to create, so that vision that you want to see, that vision that you're desiring to create from within yourself, as long as you really stay committed to that, eventually you'll ride out any cyclical pattern that you're in. And again, we always create the patterns, especially patterns of discomfort or dysfunction. We always create them in order to learn more about our own self and in order to learn more about our own creation. And certainly if we commit to the process, we will be guided to share stuff. We'll be guided to share our vulnerability. We'll be guided to share. And that's something as well with illusion and superficiality. Like for me, someone really deep, I've always been a deep thinker. I've always been a broad thinker as well. I've always been somebody that looks at the entire global condition and how it relates to me. And then on the flip side, I have this really... gotta love it, but this really kind of superficial superficial issue that's caused me a lot of deep suffering and pain for most of my life, and that's to do with my body wanting to be beautiful, desire to be sexy, and have a certain feeling in my body. And it's a very paradoxical thing, you know, to be very compassionate, to be all about like you know, transforming the world and empowering people and yada yada yada, and then having this really superficial issue that I've been dealing with that I want to reject, and yet at the same time I'm coming to this apex of unification where I'm having to honor it and share it and say, look, I've dealt with this weird superficial issue my whole life, and yet part of feeling those horrible feelings or feeling not good in myself is part of what spurred me on the spiritual path, and part of always desiring more and never giving up. And that's the biggest thing as well, like never giving up, never resigning to, well, I guess life is just shit and I guess I'll never really feel that happy, or I might feel happy in one area, but I'm always going to be a little bit unhappy with my body, or I'm always going to be a little bit unhappy in my relationships. And not settling for that, not giving in to the mass collective, like, or certainly not giving in to what I might have observed around me, but actually saying, no, I deserve true joy. I deserve unlimited abundance. I deserve to feel exquisite and stunning and beautiful and radiant in my body, alive in my body, and loving my reflection. I deserve to love my reflection. I deserve to love my life. I deserve to live in a paradise, because really, truly, in the deepest part of my heart, that's what I believe this experience is here to show us, is how to go from these sort of limited perspectives and rise above them through our own focus and through our own inner alchemy through spirit. Because spirit is ultimately what is creating the reality that we're all perceiving. It's just breaking through the illusory barrier to be able to access that divine spark within us all. And we all have the power to do this. We all have the ability, the capacity, and the mental focus. It simply requires more and more and more of us to do the work, to work it out intellectually so that we can embody it in the physical, so that we can tap into that divine spark, which is the connection to spirit, which we all have, or intuition, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter the word. It matters how we're working with the inner feeling, how we're working with those old programs, those old physical and emotional sensations, and how we're choosing to perceive them. Are they real or are they not real? Are they simply something that we've created to punish ourselves from some experience we had at some point on our own timeline, whether in this lifetime or another lifetime? And then really digging deep and how we work with our own consciousness, because our own consciousness is always working with our present moment reality. Oftentimes we're just too distracted to realize it, and that's why slowing down is so effective. That's why meditating is so effective, because it helps us really start to pluck out the juicy nuggets of our own consciousness and work with that which we're desiring, and i.e. be of service to one another and be of service to ourselves, regardless of the entire external reality. If we could just live our highest joy, if we could just be an embodiment of our own truest, most loving, most abundant expression, that really is our service to the world. My ability to choose that body which I choose to embody and live the life that I choose to live consciously, that is the teaching. And so my ability to create that and live that as honestly and as purely as possible, that's my teaching to the world. It ultimately doesn't matter what I say here. It's how I live my life. And we're just transitioning through another big leap, you could say. So maybe we've had a bit of a practice run, or we've had a few big insights, and then now we're in that push of now live it, now be it, now be the expression of the divine. And it's beautiful, because we're in this gateway, and we're going to continue to see bigger and bigger shifts in the collective. But know too that when you start to practice this stuff, it's really interesting to look back at different parts of your life and see the truth of it. See how when you were thinking negative thoughts about yourself, that's the image you saw, or that's maybe a sort of slightly delayed reaction, but eventually you would see the reflection that you were creating. And ultimately it was never really true. It was just that what you were creating in the moment and feeling and vibrating about yourself or about the world in that moment. I can certainly backtrack over my life, and even as I unravel greater patterns and broader patterns of my own consciousness, I can see deeper and deeper patterns connected to past lives and connected to things I created on a timeline of this reality that have led to this moment of realization of, oh my God, I'm forgiven and I don't need to punish myself anymore. So thanks for listening today. I appreciate all of your comments and all of your engagement with my post. Don't forget to head over to Facebook, Alta Love World, and Instagram as well, Alta Love. And really appreciate you guys just supporting at this point the movement, the Alta Love movement, and also empowering yourselves to be the highest expression of your own desire and your own choosing. Because in truth, our highest desire is for the good of all, and it also allows us to be the most creative and abundant examples of what we're capable of in humanity's sort of expanding consciousness. So it's a really beautiful thing. It's not necessarily what we think it is. It's not about fighting or resisting or going against the system per se. It's about aligning with our truest joy, and that is pure, true liberation and salvation. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you very soon indeed. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.